Gary Smith, Chief Deputy. I have his resignation in my hand. So that being said, looks like we have, two candidates. Mr. John Patrick Dixon. Would you, any questions for him from the court?
I know we briefly talked yesterday, and get a feel to see if there's something you might be interested in doing or potentially could do. I know you don't currently have a peace officer's license, and you have not worked as a peace officer, but you meet the requirements under, the statute for veteran status. Had the DA check on that, he went through, TCO, and got us clarification on that you do fall within the guidelines for that. But within that, that gives you the capability to only act in an administrative fashion up until the point that you obtain a peace officer license. So the way it used to work, if a civilian was elected to sheriff's position, they were allotted 2 years to obtain the peace officer license in third captain. That's what the waiver of the military experience gives you, according to the DA coming back from Kiko and a couple of county attorneys. So the biggest question I would have is, how do you think you could benefit the county? How do you think you could help the county in this position?
I do feel that the office of sheriff is, even though I do not have the experience, but the office of sheriff is to do basically two things. The main one is to protect citizens in the county. We may have people coming in with ill intent, and it's up to us to make sure that they do not succeed in whatever their plans are. And the second thing is to be a good liaison between the commissioners court and the people, and if there's questions or problems, we have to be open about it. You know, we don't need secrets, things like that. But being a small community, there's times that you gotta step up. And, quite honestly, I found out about this yesterday. But being in the, I was actually born in Roby. You know, we moved to Sweetwater when I was a kid. I went to school in Sweetwater, joined the military, US Navy. I've been around the world. I've seen how other places do it, and honestly, if nothing else, you learn what not to do in a lot of things. But when it comes to dealing with people in the public, the one thing that I can assure you is that at least I will hear you. I will be open. If we have anything outstanding on the books, then whatever I can do administratively, if I can sign in the deputies to complete it, I will do that. And I will keep the court informed. Whatever reports are gonna be necessary, they will be made to the court, to the state. And, you know, I will do the job to the best of my ability. Whether I stink at it or whether I'm good at it, I don't know yet, but that's one thing that I'm willing to try.
Because this is a special appointment,
Yes.
if you were to be appointed, this is for a duration of 2 years. And this coming fall, you would have to decide if you were gonna run publicly or not, to retain the office. And then after that, you would have to run again in 2 years after that, because it would have to fall back on normal scheduling for the
Right.
sheriff.
Yeah, I
Is there
understand.
something you would be willing to do?
Absolutely. You know, I do believe that if I'm going to pursue this, then we do it wholeheartedly. You know, I don't wanna be, you know, halfway or wishy-washy or anything else. So as soon as I can, meet the requirements for the peace officer license, then I will get it. And, you know, and hopefully I'm doing a good enough job, I will feel comfortable with, you know, putting my hat, name in the hat there come November.
Another one would be one of the big things, because you aren't a active peace officer, you don't have your peace officer license, you would,
I will try to get in the first available opportunity.
And you have two years to attain that license, is that
Yes.
correct?
That's what we understood.
Yeah.
Cause all the 10-year veteran status just gives them the opportunity to bypass the, active officer.
Right.
And, the 5 years of experience as an officer. But they still have a timeline within that, because if you
Yeah.
don't attain your peace officer license within 2 years, you have to be removed from the
Yeah.
position.
I understand that.
I know there's been a lot of issues going back and forth, and we don't have to get into giant detail on it, but how do you perceive the budget?
Well, a budget is certainly something that we should try to live within. It's certainly not something to be taken for granted. We have to be accountable to the taxpayer. We cannot expect to just do whatever we want and then force the people of the county to fork over more money. They're having a hard time right now. I'm hoping things get better, in the coming years. But the idea that we can, buzz the budget on superfluous things or the nice to have things, that's not what it's intended for. We will do our job, and we will do it with utilizing our resources as best we can, and make that money in that budget go as far as possible. It's not there for toys, it's not there for nice things. If opportunities for training comes up and we can afford it, I will make sure our deputies go to training. It's important that we have as good a trained force as we can within the limitations of what we can do. So, that would be my main concern. I don't want shiny new stuff. We don't need shiny new stuff. We just need people who are gonna do the job, who are well trained.
What do you feel like is the relationship the police, sheriff's department needs to have with the general public?
Well, I think it should be one that if you wanna knock on my door, it's open. We're not above anyone. We're not better than anyone. And if you have a legitimate complaint and grievance, then it will be looked into. If it's something that requires lawful action, then we will take it. And if it is something that is more of a personal matter, then we'll try to mediate it to the best we can. But it shouldn't be something that, continues with friction and turmoil in the community. We shouldn't be part of the friction and turmoil. We should be the ones trying to knock it down a little bit, help everybody get along.
Well, there's been a deal about, we've seen it, and I just wanted to make clarification of it, the 75,000 on the sheriff's pay being a raise. It was not a raise, it was a stipend.
Right.
It was a stipend in order for the county to be eligible for the SB 22. The reason it had to be stipend is if that government grant was to go away at any point, it gives the county the capability to go back to normal sheriff's pay.
Correct. And I understand that. And it's not the money, we need somebody, and right now we don't have anybody. As the judge just pointed out, we don't have a sheriff. So regardless of what the pay is, we need someone who at least meets minimum qualifications to fill the office and to do the best job that we can with what we've got.
What are you doing for employment now?
Right now, I work for the Roby CISD. I drive school bus, I do maintenance, custodial work. And the main reason I had taken it, I had worked in Cudahy, Wisconsin for Allegheny Technologies Incorporated. It was a forging company, and we made forgings for everything that goes into the ocean into outer space. If you've ever flown on a commercial aircraft, you've flown on API parts. If it's got a Rolls-Royce engine on it, there's API parts in it. And one of the things that I was responsible for, I did non-destructive testing, which I specialized API in ultrasonics. So you use ultrasound for testing forging. and make sure that they're gonna be of good quality, and you put your stamp on it. We are responsible for that, for the life of the part. So that's one thing that kinda adds to it. If the engine comes apart and it's your part that failed, guess who's going to jail? You are. So without integrity, you can't do the job I used to do. Without integrity, I can't do this job. And that's really all that it comes down to. I have, as I said, been around the world in the Navy. I've handled anything from explosive ordnance to worked on nuclear power plants. And so, you know, I had people say, well, what are you doing here? Well, I lived away from my immediate family for over 40 years. And when COVID hit, API was one of the many companies that said, all right, we need to save money, so we're gonna have a reduction in force. Well, I was within 5-6 years of retiring, so naturally, I'm out the door. So I come here and, you know, I mean, this is Roby, we don't exactly have a lot of business. So, applied it to the school district, and that's what I've been doing.
Have you ever been affiliated with any kind of law enforcement in your life, or?
Other than a couple of associations, you know, that support law enforcement, and the, you know, the duties that I had in the military, that we, you know, physical security, things like that. Part of our job, when I was at the EOD group in Maryland, was when your duty day, that you spent 24 hours that day, and you did patrols, you know, you carried a firearm, you know, you made reports, you did all the security checks, things like that. And that's really as close as it's got. I mean, I'll admit, I'm not a cop, I haven't been.
How long did you serve in the military?
Technically speaking, 17 years, 6 months, and 28 days. And the reason I say that is because I was at the 18-year point in my career. I was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and my detailer said he wanted to give me my last tour of duty would be on an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, unaccompanied. My children were 2 and 4 years old at the time. And I said, well, if I go away for 18 months, they're not gonna know who I am when I get back. So fortunately for me, the last year that the government offered TERA, which is a temporary early retirement authority, for my particular classification NECs, they finally allowed us to apply. The previous 8 years, we couldn't do it because we were considered necessary for the Navy. Well, they finally said, okay, you guys can apply. So I did, and I got it. So then they detract from, you know, they take away your boot camp, DAT time, any schooling or anything like that. So I ended up with 17 years, 6 months, and 28 days. Instead of 18 and a half years.
So you are a resident of Roby, I guess?
Yes, I am. I moved here in September, technically we bought our house in October of 2020. So I've been here 4 years.
Do you see an issue being the boss over 11 employees?
Absolutely not. At my previous place of employment, I ran a shop with 24 people across 3 shifts. And, you know, there were times that I had to go in and help out without, you know, because I was salaried. I was putting in 16, 17, 18-hour days with no benefit from it, you know, monetarily. But that was the job, so that's what you do. So I made sure that our guys were assigned to do the proper work, to get the material out that to meet our shipping goals, things of that nature. So assigning people to do things is not hard.
So you're familiar with scheduling then?
Absolutely. You know, and one thing I do firmly believe in is that if we take the time to be organized, you know, and I'm kind of old school, I'll use charts, I'll use whatever as a reminder, and we will make sure that things happen when they're supposed to happen. If there's something that comes up on a regular basis, it's gonna be on the chart, you know, and you'll know when it was last done and when it's due. And we'll keep track of everything the best we can that way.
if this SB 22 stipend goes away, would you be able to stay with the pay that you'd be making without the
Yeah.
SB 22? You could make a living on that?
Yeah, I make a living on what we make at the school, so.
They have more responsibility now.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. But yes, I wouldn't have a problem if they took us out. I'm not here because of the paycheck.
Big question, probably a lot of them here, Hal, if you were to be appointed, how would you look at employees that are currently there?
Well, first of all, I would meet with each of them. I think first as a group, and then if any of them wanted to meet individually, you know, to have a little one-on-one. But I would do that. I wanna know where they stand, what their ideas are, what their attitudes are. We do not need, cause you honestly, you see it a lot on, news and everything else where, you know, we don't need law enforcement who have an ego. We need law enforcement who are gonna enforce the law and, you know, not be out there because, you know, there's somebody because they have a badge. You know, and basically it should be, you do what the law says for you to do. And if the person in question is violating that law, then you have the responsibility. Now, we know that sometimes people are gonna give them grief, they're gonna, resist or whatever. But they're also, you need to know the difference between a major violation that deserves arrest and whatever it takes to get that person into custody, and somebody who's just giving you some lip. Now, people may give you some lip, and it'll upset you, you know, it'll make you mad. But you cannot resort or go back to their attitude. You have to be professional at all times. And the last thing that I would wanna hear is that anyone had a problem with my deputy being so aggressive that they feel that they've been wrong. We don't need that. We just need people who would go out and say, hey, you know, here's the law, here's what you did wrong. You know, if we can solve it with a ticket, then you get a ticket. You don't have to make arrests for everything. So, that's kind of where I would be at with that. I just wanna make sure that they have a good attitude toward the public that they're serving, because that is the point, they are serving the public. You know, it's not, you know, we're the big dogs on the block and you can't do anything to us. That's a bad attitude.
Any other questions? Everything all right? You got everything?
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Brandon Arnold. Any questions for Mr. Arnold?
You'd like to give us some of your background, or?
Sure. I've been in law enforcement since about 2005. I worked at various departments, had different supervisor positions. I was recently the chief of the county. Resigned from there, moved out to McCallie. I've got grassroots here in Fisher County. My parents live out in McCallie, they farm and ranch. I just took the opportunity to move back out here and saw this opportunity and figured I would apply for it and try to serve the citizens of Fisher County.
So you do live in Fisher County?
Yes, sir.
Been there for, how long have you been in Fisher County?
It's been about a month-ish.
It was our understanding coming back from the DA, I know there was two opinions that were given by the Attorney General's office, but with everything they've looked back on the waivers, without 6 months in county, they can't find a waiver that matches up to that, even with the AG's opinion, was what we got back.
I believe that is correct. You have to-
Right here, I've got the deal from the, DA Ricky Thompson, that, with regards to the AG opinions, haven't found the ability to waive the residency requirement And Sterling Burleson County Attorney in Mitchell looked and he hasn't either. So both our DA and the attorney we work with in Mitchell County sometimes on Sterling are not allowing the waiver. Can't find anything to go with the waiver of waiving anything other than 6 months residency in county.
You need an extra two shows.
If you want to, you're welcome to look at it.
No, I trust you. I just got a feeling.
But this was just made aware to us at 8:20 this morning.
Any other questions? Looks like with that, we're down to one attendance. Leanne, does the board have any questions for CMO director?
I know that we had 4 people apply, and with the lack of the waiver and with the resignation, it leaves us with one option. I don't see, to me, I don't see anything that, with what's been said, what's came back, because I know, also within here, the DA ran the background yesterday, his special investigator ran it. The only thing he wasn't able to get back was military background, which you can provide us with the DD 214, correct, which will cover a military background. That would be the only thing. Could your wife bring your DD 214 up, to be honest?
I don't know that she knows where it is.
Could we afford him the opportunity, because it'd be the last clarification on the background check on it, because what the DA sent back, what everybody's got here, his background check came back and, no arrest or anything on Dixon, no felonies. So, all we need to do is clarification on your DD 214 to show a dishonorable discharge from the military.
How long would that take you?
Mr. Dixon, you know where that is? Is that readily available?
I think I know where I put it. I have a couple of different places for people, but I could find it in probably